Hey everyone, welcome back. We're on to the next sheet now. Just like the last video, we were just doing fills on a sheet called Filler Up. This is Filler Up 2, the sequel. I don't know. It's the second one. It's the same. I'll wait until I'm back to the microphone so I can actually talk. It's the same idea where we've got fills, and we're just gonna put them on the 3 and the 4 of each bar. So they only last for 2 counts, which means that we're going to have to fill count 1 and 2 and with a beat. Okay, the fills are a little bit more advanced throughout the sheet. There's a few concepts that I'll probably have to explain. So look forward to that because I love explaining things without having a whiteboard to draw on. You probably already know that I'm mostly used to teaching in the classroom where I've got something to write on. And I didn't really want to write on my walls, so you're going to have to deal with me trying to verbally explain it and looking at some pictures of notes or whatever I decide to put up in this video. So let's start, eh? Might as well, that's what we're here for. Not going anywhere else. Fill number 1. Already there's some things that we haven't seen before. And honestly, they're not that important to this, what we're doing, which is just figuring out the rhythms for everything and trying to play them on the right drums and that. But I'll just mention what they are. Those little arrows, I guess, above some of the notes, those are called accents. And what accents are is that we play those notes slightly louder, or actually quite a bit louder, than the other ones. Okay, so it would be like, I'll play a combination of accented notes. This isn't the fill, this is just showing you what accents actually are. So I'll play them on the snare drum. These are some accented notes with some non-accented notes. It'll be like... So that's a combination of accented notes and non-accented notes. So what I was actually playing was just the same rhythm. But see how it suddenly became more interesting by adding in loud and quiet notes? That's all that those things mean. We're not going to focus too much on those because we're actually more focused on the rhythms and which drums it is to play. So the first fill has 4 16th notes and 2 8th notes. So the rhythm's going to be like this. Da, 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 da. So the easiest way to keep track of where we are is to keep counting that 3 and 4 and. But when we have more notes than will fit into 3 and 4 and, because that's just 8th note counting, we can fill in the gaps, and this is going to sound silly, with e's and ahs. E's and ahs. So 3E and A, 4E and A. Okay? So instead of just going 3 and 4 and for 16th notes, we can count 3E and A, 4E and A. I hope that makes sense because I'm going to be counting like that for some of the fills in this sheet. For example, fill 1, where we've got 4 16th notes at the start, then 2 8th notes. So it's going to go 3E and A, 4 and. I think I got that right. 3E and A, 4 and. So we've got 4 16th notes, 2 8th notes. I'm going to play it now a little bit slowly so that you can kind of remember what we did from the last sheet, because it might have been a couple of days since you watched it, or a week, or a year, I don't know. So this is fill 1 with a beat in front of it. I'm going to do it twice. Here we go. Now on to fill 2. So this one starts exactly the same way. We've got tom 1, 3 snares. Those are all 16th notes. So we've got 3 E and A, and then we've got 1 8th and then 2 16ths on the snare. So we go 3 E and A, 4 and A. Because the 4 is an 8th note, we can count that as 4. The next thing we need to count is and then A, because we miss out the E. We miss out the 4E, so we go 4 and A. tough without a whiteboard, but I hope you're getting the gist of it. If not, rewind it, listen to the same thing, get confused again, and then try to explain it, try to understand it a little bit further. Okay, so we've got 3E and a 4 and a. It's a really cool sounding fill. So this is what it sounds like nice and slowly, twice through. Nice. Thanks. Number 3, we've got 2/16, 8th, 8th, 2/16. The rhythm is 3E and 4 and a. 3E and 4 and a. Which drums are we using? Great question. I'm so glad you asked. The answer to that question is we've got 2 snares, 1 tom 1, then all the rest are snares. So we go snare, snare, tom, snare, snare, snare. Cool fill again. These ones are starting to sound a lot more interesting than the last ones, where the last ones, the ones in Filler Up, the first sheet that we did, were a little bit plain. These ones actually add a little bit cooler rhythms, I think, anyway. And it's all it's doing is just changing everything slightly. So we don't actually have to change a lot to make everything sound a lot cooler, in my opinion. All right, so number 3, nice and slowly, twice through, sounds like this. That wasn't actually that slow, was it? But you get the idea. Number 4. Number 4 has something else that we haven't seen before, or we might not have seen before. Some of you more advanced drummers probably will have seen these. And it's called a dotted note. So you can see after the first note on that snare, it's an 8th note because it's got one line at the top of it, but it's also got a dot after it. Now this is a pretty tricky thing to understand. So put your thinking caps on. I know you might have left them at school, left them in your bag or something, but go get them. You can pause the video, go get your thinking cap, bring it back, and put it on because I'm about to explain some stuff. I'm going to do and explain. The dot after the note makes that note longer by 50%. Okay? So if that note lasts for half a count, which an 8th note does, it would last for the 3, and then you would play on the and, the next note. It now lasts for the 3 and then half of the and as well. It's pretty confusing. So now the next note would have to be on the because it's taken up the 3E and all that time. 3E and. Then the next note must go on the because it's added on another 16th note, which is half of an 8th note. It's confusing. It might just be best if you just listen to how the rhythm sounds and you can kind of understand where the notes need to come. Okay? So we've got snare, tom 1, floor tom, and then bass drum. Okay? It's the only bass drum on the whole sheet. But you can see it in the key that I've probably put around somewhere, that's what the drum is. Bass drum, obviously, right down the bottom of all the drums that we play. So we've got snare, tom 1, floor tom, then bass drum. The rhythm is 4E and 3E and 4 and da, 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 da. Now some of you who have done this sheet before might remember me referring to something called the Bob the Builder fill. This is the Bob the Builder rhythm. Okay? Bob the Builder. Don't act like you don't know what I'm talking about, okay? Everybody knows Bob the Builder. Bob the Builder. Okay, that's how that one sounds. I think the floor tone with my knee. It's uncomfortable. Bob the Builder. Okay, you know the rest of it. This is what it sounds like with the beat and then the fill. Okay? Just try to not sing Bob the Builder as you're doing it. Okay, I had to try really hard to not actually sing. All right, next one, number 5. Now we're going to have to explain some more stuff here. Number 5 has got groups of eighth notes, but you might notice that they've got a little 3 above them. Now what that 3 is it's called something, it's something called a triplet, okay? Where it's 3 notes in the space that 2 would usually be, okay? So now instead of just going ba, ba, we're going to go ba, 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 because we're putting 3 notes into the space where 2 would usually be. And it makes it sound cool, first of all. Triplets are cool. But also it makes it sound slightly different. And you'll see what I mean when I play it, okay? So we go 1 and 2 and da 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 da. 1 and 2 and 1 triplet, 2 triplet. So 1 triplet, 2 triplet, or triplet, triplet. A good ways of counting these. I'll show you the difference. So with this hand, 1 and 2. So with this hand, I'm going to do eighth notes. I'm going to try this anyway. So with this hand, I'm doing eighth notes. That's my right hand. I'm doing eighth notes. With my left hand, I'm going to do eighth note triplets. So every 2 that I play on here with my right hand, I should be playing 3 with my left hand. I hope I can do this. I don't actually know if I can. If I can't, maybe that's a challenge for you guys. All right, here we go. Did you see my concentration face? I had to think about that one. That was tricky. So that's the timing. That's our 3 and 4 and. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. It's hard to also count while playing that. So this is what it sounds like with the beat twice through. All right, so I hope that you've got a good idea of what triplets are, because guess what? Number 6 and number 7 are both the same rhythm. They've both got triplets. They're both 2 sets of triplets, but we just change where we play them. This number 6 is the one that trips most people up on this sheet, I reckon, because you're playing triplets, but you're actually playing them in groups of 2. It's really confusing because you've got to go 1 triplet, 2 triplet. I'll do that again. 1 triplet, 2 triplet. So you've still got to think in 3s by doing the triplets. 1 triplet, 2 triplet. But you're only doing 2 on each drum. So you're actually thinking in 3s and 2s at the same time. Unbelievable. 1 triplet, 2 triplet is how that sounds. This is what it sounds like with the beat. 1 and 2 and. Okay. That one, if you can't get a hold of it properly, I recommend going back to number 5 and just focusing on what your hands are doing and just making sure you move that around the drum kit. Number 7 is triplets again, but this time it's a little bit easier because we're moving half, like when we start the second group of triplets, that's when we move to the next drum. Okay, and then we go reverse this time. So we go from the floor tom up to tom 1. All right, so here's what that sounds like. Now I'll play it with the beat so you kind of understand how the timing works. All right, number 8. We're back to some good old-fashioned 16th notes and 8th notes now. The triplets are done with for the moment. So we've got 4 16th notes, 1 8th note, and 2 more 16th notes. So we've got da 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 da. In fact, this is the same rhythm that was on da 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 da. Da, 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 da. Oh, maybe not. Maybe I'm making things up. It sounds really similar to what we did. Oh no, yeah. Never mind me. I'm in my own world sometimes. So number 8, we'll continue on with this lesson. 4 16ths, 1 8th, 2 16ths. Da, 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 da. All on the snare. This is what it sounds like. Oh, that's why I recognize it, because it was on the same rhythm as number 2 on this sheet. We've got 4/16, 1/8, and 2/16. That's why I recognize it. Okay, I thought it was on the last sheet, but it was actually on this one. So the counting for this one, just like we did on the second example on this sheet, is 3E and a 4 and a. 3E and a 4 and a. You can do that on like 1E and a 2 and a as well if it's easier, but remember we're using these at the end of the bar, so halfway through the bar, so that's on 3 and then 4. Number 9. We start with 1/8, 2/16, and then we have a rest. Now in the last sheet, I know this one was on the last sheet because I remember talking about it, we had an 1/8 note rest. So we had a rest that would start the fills as an 1/8 note. This is what a 16th note rest looks like. See that the weird little thing with it's got like the 2 dots and the lines that come off it? That's a 16th note rest. So that's just a little bit of a gap in the middle of the fill. So the rhythm is an 1/8 note, 2/16, 16th note rest, 1/16, and then 1/8 note. It's getting complicated, guys. It's getting complicated. Da 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 is what that sounds like. 1/8, 16th, and then it's hard to say 16th, 8th really fast, but ba 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 ba. The drums that we use, good question. Okay, see how I nearly went right hand up there, but I knew that the next one was going to be left hand. Next one was going to be floor tom, so I switched my hands around. So. Quite a cool one. You kind of have to reverse your hands a little bit. It's cool. All right, number 10. This one looks reasonably simple again. So we've got 2/16 and 2/8, then 2/16. Da 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 da. This is the same rhythm from the third one on the sheet as well. Da 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 da. This time they're all on the snare though, so we're not using any toms. We're just using the snare for the fill. 3E and 4 and a. 3E and 4 and a. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and a. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and a. Number 11. We're getting through these last ones quite fast, eh? It's really good. Number 11. Excuse the mic off. I'm not sick, by the way. I've just got a little bit of asthma. Number 11, we've got a little bit more complicated rhythms. Again, we've got 16th, 8, 16th, 8, 2/16. This is on the other sheet. This is number 7. The same rhythm as number 7 on the last sheet, but this time we're just playing it on the snare. So it actually might make it a little bit more difficult just playing it on the one drum because we don't have the added bonus of hearing the notes, the pitch of the notes change as we move around the drum kit. So we're just hearing the same thing. Okay, so that's what that sounds like. So we've got 3E, 3E, 4 and 3E and 3E, 4 and So the main thing that I want you to get out of these sheets here, these 2 filler up sheets, is not how to play the fills, but how to understand the timing that goes along with them. The notes that we use, the lengths of each note, and things like that. Those things are more important than just listening to something and playing it back. Okay? Because I could just sit down here and go, you ready? Play this. And you could go, cool. That was a really good impression of you guys, by the way. But what I want you to get out of this is to understand that there are differences between 16th notes and 8th notes, which ones go fast, which ones go slow, because then it opens up a huge range of stuff that we can play in terms of doing beats and doing fills and doing patterns around the drum kit and things like that. That will be really easy. It'll be a lot easier to learn them than just copying them if you can learn to read them, which would be really cool. So now, as tradition dictates, I'm going to try and play the whole sheet all in a row. I don't know if I can do this one. All right, let's give it a go. I'm just psyching myself up. Gotta do it. The triplets are going to stuff me up. I already know it. What's that, Phil? Okay, here we go from the start. Got him. First time. Well done. Me. Thanks. So that wraps up Filler Up 2. Hopefully you've got a better understanding of the timing surrounding these notes. 16th notes, 8th notes, brief, quick lesson about dotted notes, which may need further explanation down the road because they're still quite confusing, I'm sure. And triplets. Okay, so there's 4 concepts there. You also learn about accents, which is really cool, and we covered some 16th note rests as well. So we've done heaps on this sheet alone, okay, and plus the filler up sheet that we did earlier, and the beats from the first video. So we've covered quite a lot, which is cool. So there's plenty of stuff to practice, even if you don't have drums. Grab some chopsticks, grab some cutlery, pots and pans, plastic boxes around the house, buckets, siblings. No, I don't recommend practicing on your siblings because they'll run away. And you don't want them to run away. But yeah, I hope everybody is looking after yourself and looking after those around you, keeping safe, keeping well. And I'll see you in the next video. Ka kite.